Late afternoon, everyone. I want to talk about the spiritual aspect of the No Kings March that took place a couple of weeks ago in June. And I would like for us to consider how that protest, which was primarily filled with white people, white men and women, and as you know, they have benefited the most in America, how that is a sign of the dark clouds that have formed over this country, and how that relates to revolution versus a civil war. So it is clear to see that white people as a whole, they are frustrated. They are really, really frustrated. Their passions are now eroding, and that passion is basically to belong in the same class of the elites that has been the architects of what we now call America, or United States of America, and the European hegemony that has dominated this planet for the last 5 centuries. And as you have clearly seen in these past 10 months, that it doesn't matter what ceremony or spectacles are brought before them by the ruling elites in the form of the White House, Congress, or any kind of political bodies, has satisfied their passions that whiteness is still the preeminent factor of the world, or really globally. And what has satisfied their passions in the past? Well, they were receiving, as I have heard from YouTubers, gifts, goodies, and giveaways. The gifts, although many, one I want to point out to you, one of the main ones was their non-punishment for all the crimes that they would commit. And although their exoneration was not as complete as it was for those of the elites, powerful men and women who were the architects of white supremacy, in yesteryears, decades ago, it was satisfiable. The next goodie that they received, the first choice of everything, whether that in technology, good education, job status, promotions, and economic floor for hundreds of years have served them well, especially with the last century, which has been the overall height of their ability to live and live fantastically at the expense of the descendants of American slaves. And the last and the most important one, I would speculate, was all the giveaways, all the freebies that they had received from the elite class of white royalty, almost assuring that they would never fall down back to what they were in old England or old Europe, and that includes Spain, Portugal, etc. Ensuring that they would never go back to the days of famine, to the days where diseases spread around, like the Black Plague, nearly killing off the whole race as a whole. Indeed, everything in human activity, economics, education, entertainment, labor, laws, politics, religion, sex, and war, everything was devised so that they had an upper hand, a floor from which they would not be toppled down. And they believed these strong men, these strong people that were ruling over the whole planet. The contract seemed like it was for sure and guaranteed and would last forever, which is what they would say, right? White supremacy now, white supremacy forever. And although there was this little tiny book called the Bible that was telling them that something else was going to happen for these ill-gotten gains, their demigods were the powerful men that led them. The Queen Elizabeth's of their world, the King Henrys of their world, with and without a crown. These were their heroes and their protectors, and would ensure that this will go on forever. And now here we are in 2025, and we have them marching in the millions. And I want to touch on why this has happened. So all these areas of activities, of human activity, as given to us by Dr. Neely Fuller, who has passed on, may the Lord give him rest. Let's start with economics. Although all these examples are not inclusive, they're just certain points for your consideration. As it stands today, economics feeds the ultra-rich who have an insatiable hunger of greed that is showing full frontal the endless depths that even they, the everyday white man and white woman, is subjected to. And they now, at this appointed time, are also being devoured. Just like the descendants of American slaves that have been devoured since 1492. The next thing is education. The value is at an all-time true low due to the ability of the internet to allow the average person, no matter the color, no matter their intellect, to obtain status and riches. Many of these low vibrational individuals are thought of in the eyes of the world on the net, like what used to be called the Twitterverse, YouTube, and more, without the high degrees of BA or BS or PhD. These individuals, if they talk a good game, if they give out whatever entertainment, they are thought of as renowned now. And so the field of respectability has been lowered to the ground. For your average person can be thought of just as important and prestigious as a doctor, a nurse, a priest, etc. These are areas that the majority of the European people had occupied prior to the advent of the internet, which has been a great equalizer. The next thing is entertainment. The last time I checked, Hollywood is pretty much dead. And even when you go down to LA, many of the once thriving studios are bound to be empty and in disrepair. Why is that? Well, again, with the great equalizer of the internet, everyone has a platform to shine. Any and every idea can be thought of as great, important in the standards of beauty, intelligence, and wealth. These things that were largely defined by the white mind is no longer relevant. And as a matter of fact, because of many of the scholars who were denied a platform in Hollywood via any talk shows, news, or movies and television storytelling, these individuals of all colors and races can just get on the YouTube, create whatever content they wish, and propel themselves individually to fame and for many fortune. Indeed, we're not even looking to white people to tell us the truth anymore or to be the authority on any subject. The next thing is labor. And at this point in time, those that sit in high position are firing everybody, including those of their own race, white people, because of the advent of AI, which will be taking over a lot of jobs if these people were to remain in power for the long term. Of course, there's an argument that can be made that AI is taking over a lot of jobs anyway. And so a lot of white people can see that their jobs that they solely occupied are now in danger. The next thing is laws. The camera placed on a phone, which is carried in every human hand, is the greatest communicator of how the hidden criminality of white people is facilitated. And it's been put on stage for all the world to see. So much so that many crimes that they would have gotten away with, they are now being forced to be punished for. What it reveals is that they are no better than anybody else, and that when they point their fingers at an individual people as being the most corrupt and criminal, they are truly pointing three fingers at themselves. Thus, it is now understood that they are not the authorities of right and wrong and have never been the authorities of moral correctness. Again, the internet has brought out many hidden histories and many truths that was stuffed away in vaults or ignored by the dominant society. And now the world understands that these people, unfortunately, have been the most criminal in all of human history. And once more, the most important thing is that now we are aware that they've been allowed to get away with a lot of their criminality. Why? Because we have on tape of them producing the crime, and then we have on tape of them being let off or getting a lower sentence or coddled as if they were a child. And others, the crime has been so egregious that even if they were in yesteryear to have been let off, they have been forced to be punished. Then we have politics, which is in shambles. The fraudsters are readily and openly frauding. And of course, with the No Kings protests, we can readily see that your average everyday white male and white female has to reckon with what's right in front of them, and that their vote is turning on them. It really doesn't matter who they elect. Next is religion, a total crash, a dumpster fire. Is anyone on this planet wholesale really listening to any white preachers or pastors? Where is today's Billy Graham? Nowhere to be found would be my answer. And that in of itself is a key component. No one is even considering that God, the angels, nor Jesus Christ are white people. Worldwide, we have gotten it through our heads, especially the descendants of American slaves, that our Heavenly Mother, our Heavenly Father, the Elohim, are not white. And this is a huge one, because if you can colonize the minds of the people of what color God is, then you got their minds, right? And I probably said that backwards, but you know what I mean. That spell has been broken, and that is a cornerstone that upheld white supremacy. It is now over. Hallelujah. Now comes sex. The hypnotizing effect of white sex has diminished in value as the baby boomers are now all dying out. And the subsequent generations thereafter, Generation X, Millennials, XY, etc., value system has changed due to the advent of technology. The world no longer defaults to white women as being the epitome of beauty and the standard of beauty. That has disseminated to all women. And as a matter of fact, what we find is that a lot of these people have been copying the standards of black women. They've just been appropriating them and then being able to go out on stage to display them as their own. And during the 70s and the 80s, including the early 90s, the television was the main medium that communicated throughout the world. Television and film. Now, anybody can pick up their phone or pick up a little iPad or whatnot and make a recording of everything about beauty, everything even about sex and love, and put it out there for all the world to see. Again, another great equalizer that has torn apart the idea that whiteness is supreme. And here's another thing. Along with sex, we do have love that's intertwined in there. And prior to having this phone or having an iPad or some type of computer and having the internet, it was thought of that if a man who was black or even a woman who was black and successful, that they would marry a white woman or a white man, and that would confer status and this look of admiration from the community of black people. It doesn't. Now it's the flip side. Now we're wondering if you are a COON and you are suspected of working behind or working for our supposed enemy. And that is a stark change. That is really getting us ready for New Jerusalem. And the last thing is war. The con that America in particularly has used about war being in the cause of freedom, justice, and liberation is an outright lie right now. And even they are no longer lying to you. They're letting you know, even with the recent conflicts, that they are there for resources, not to pay in a just, fair economic deal, but to take something that doesn't belong to them and to use it for their advantage. And they're not sharing this with your rank and file white people or anybody else. Large profits from the theft and the mafioso style of taking another people's resource from out their country and bombing them to no end in order to get it, or assassinating their leaders, has gone to enrich the few. And because we are now giving numbers of billions and trillions of dollars that have gone to companies and CEOs and bloodline families who reap economic profits from their devilry, and even the government itself, where we pay taxes to, or whom we pay taxes to, those subsidies, which is basically a nice word for welfare benefits that are given to those at the highest of society and who have more money than they'll ever spend with their in their life, but they want more and more and more, denoting that greed is a bottomless pit. Now, white people have always known that war has been there to enrich the few, but some of those trinkets were handed down to them, and now those things, those policies, are closing as I speak. And now there are large whispers that these same people allegedly are having their agendas to, I would say, unalive people by the billions. And I believe what white folks are understanding now is that they are included in those numbers. And that, my friends, might be the ultimate betrayal. The reality of waking up to know that they weren't ever a part of the club of the elites, and that they were always expendable too. And because the spiritual force of the Most High God is intervened, they can no longer be protected from themselves and others. Consequently, a sledgehammer has been taken to the fortified border walls of whiteness. Coupled with the advent of UFOs like Three-Eye Atlas and Oumuamua, which are currently flying around in space, and the quick dissolution of freebies, gifts, and giveaways, one can suspect that the rank and file folks know that they are next for the sledgehammer, as the door to privilege has been firmly closed. It is my belief, and I suspect, allegedly, that revolution, not civil war, is on its way, and there is a difference. Civil war is peoples in all levels of existence or stratospheres of society, ultra rich, rich, middle class, poor, poverty stricken, go at each other equally. But revolution is the poor, the masses, going at the very powerful, after the very powerful. This is why certain well-placed high officials have gone into their hiding spaces, into their bunkers, quote unquote, They're not going in there because of black folks, or descendants of American slaves. They're going in there because they know they have betrayed the people that have upheld them the most. Your rank and file white folks. You tell me how long you think that's going to last. Thank you.